For my multimedia project, I chose to take a closer look at Monet's Meadow with Poplars. One of the reasons I chose the Museum of Fine Arts is because of its location. Centralized in the city, it was very easy to get to. The museum is also one of the largest in Boston, housing over 450,000 works of art. I think this museum was specifically good for this project since it had art from just about every period we have studied throughout this course. Given its massive size, it is a necessity that the museum be organized in a logical way, which it is. Spreading across floors, the museum breaks up the art into 5 locations, with an additional section for jewelry, instruments, and photos. Within each section, the art is further divided in very chronological order, while also keeping similar pieces such as paintings and sculptures together. The museum itself is very easy to navigate. There are signs above almost every doorway directing visitors to specific exhibits. Additionally, each room has at least one volunteer in it that is incredibly knowledgeable about the specific type of art. The museum map you receive upon entering also makes navigating the museum a piece of cake. The museum labels are very informative and include the title of the work, artist, medium, year it was created. In some labels, the background of the work was also included. Especially recently learning about the stolen art from the Holocaust, I think all labels should be included where the work came from, if available. I think this would potentially result in a decrease in stolen art, as a museum would not want to show a piece that said stolen on the label. On the right, you can see the label for the painting I specifically chose for this project. When looking at all of Monet's paintings, this one struck me the most. I thoroughly enjoyed learning about Monet in class and comparing his work to photographs, which I will talk about later in this presentation. I find it incredibly interesting how his works are tranquil and peaceful, but yet somewhat abstract, and there are no defining lines. During this section in class, we also talked about Monet's use of Impressionism and how it related to nature, which really struck a chord with me as I am a big outdoors person. Additionally, I like the fact that although the work is abstract, one can still look closely and see the finer details of nature that Monet included in the painting, such as the flowers and leaves. Some fun facts about the work include that the painting was donated to the Museum of Fine Arts by David Campbell in 1923 in honor of his wife. The painting focuses on depth and color and is roughly 22 inches by 26 inches. Additionally, Monet often painted landscapes from his childhood more than once, and every time was not like the others. The size of the painting really surprised me. In the textbook, I had pictured the paintings to be much larger. It is mind-blowing to think about how Monet took such a large area of land and shrunk it down to about a 2-foot square while still maintaining a very ornate level of detail. The Museum of Fine Arts does a good job of displaying the work. The painting is hung on the wall and surrounded by an ornate golden frame. There is a light on the ceiling that shines directly onto the painting, which highlights the minute details and colors of the work. The walls in the room are a dark beige. I think this allows all of the focus to be on the paintings themselves. When you walk in the room, you can look around and see the rather dull walls with bursts of color here and there as you are looking at the paintings. The painting has 2 labels. The first is a smaller label, which was shown earlier in this presentation, and the second is a larger label giving more detail on Monet's style, which is on the next slide. While the smaller label gave some basic information on the painting, this more detailed label mentions the red blossoms and large trees which can clearly be seen in the painting. These are some motifs that Monet often included. It is interesting how Monet often painted the same landscapes, but they could look completely different. This relates to our conversation we had in class comparing Monet's work to photographs. As I stated in my discussion post, I do not think Monet's works can be compared to photographs. As mentioned earlier, the paintings are almost abstract, with no defining lines between brushstrokes. I think this merging of the strokes coming together to create the work, but take away from the realistic sense of the painting. Monet also painted what he saw in the landscapes. Just like any art, this is extremely conditional, as another person could have painted the same fields in a completely different way. In fact, Monet himself would often paint the same location multiple times, and none of his paintings could look alike. I also think the fact that nature itself has so many minute details that could be captured in a photograph but not a painting makes Monet's work more of a memory rather than a photograph itself. Overall, the museum vibe was very calming and tranquil. Unlike some museums I have been to, you do not feel rushed to look at all the countless pieces of work. I think there is a much better understanding of the art itself when you see it in person versus in a textbook. Being able to see the size, minor details, and other works from the same artist or time period really give a better understanding regarding the period or artists themselves. While the museum is organized and the labels are very informative, I wish they included more information on where the works came from. Given our recent discussion on the Nazis and how they stole art during the Holocaust, I think by including where the work came from would cut down on stolen art, as no museum would want to put a word stolen on a label. This would result in much return of the art, which we had discussed this past week. Overall, this project definitely gave me a better understanding of Monet as an artist and the Impressionist movement, as well as how much detail goes into painting. I also look forward to visiting the Museum of Fine Arts again.